Okay, are we ready? We hit it. Okay, now it's recording. Hi, everybody. It's Barb Scotty from Near West Side Partners, and we are here this afternoon with a few visitors from our banking community and continuing to roll on with our weekly webinars. I'm going to move to presentation mode for a minute, and you'll all see my big bad screen. So there's slide 1. And then slide 2, lots of stuff going on. We still have COVID, so do remember to wash your hands. Our Choice Neighborhood Initiative grant is moving along. Keep your eyes peeled out in the community. You're gonna see some nice changes occurring. Based on last night's incidents in Sheboygan, let's continue to know justice and know peace. Neighborhood House, it has a pantry, and if you so if you have questions about that pantry, go to their website. But the details to know are their pantries are on Wednesdays noon to 2 and Thursdays 4 to 6. We always encourage everyone to vote. That's how your voice can be heard. We are working with the census folks. They are coming through the Near West Side, so keep your eyes peeled. If you haven't completed that form yet, you can do so in person. There are folks canvassing throughout the community. And then next week we have, our topic is reckless driving. So we're very excited. We hope we can get a lot of folks tuning in and really elevate, if the community is concerned about reckless driving and what they can do, and maybe we can start working on some good solutions as well. So keep all that in mind. Moving forward, we are joined by 5 different organizations that are bankers in our Near West Side community. Thank you all for joining us. And that format here is gonna be a panel discussion. And what I'm gonna do is start introducing our folks, and then I'll turn it over to our moderator, Constance. So I'm just gonna make sure everyone's names are up there. First, we have Constance Alberts. She's a program manager of Bank on Greater Milwaukee from the Urban Economic Development Association. So that's UEDA, correct? It's the UEDA is easier to say than Urban Economic Development Association. So Constance, thanks for joining us. Can you share a little bit of information about yourself?
Well, thanks, Barb. As Barb said, my name is Constance Alberts. I am the program director for Bank on Greater Milwaukee. And what we do with Bank on is we look at equity in regard to banking. So in Greater Milwaukee, there are approximately 30 people who are either unbanked or underbanked. And so again, that's a lot of people who are not using the financial institution in the way that they would be able to save money and to build wealth. So our goal at Bank on the Greater Milwaukee is to facilitate those conversations and get more banks and communities to come together to reduce the number of unbanked and underbanked in our community.
Great, thank you. Next in line, we have Bill Kopka. He is from Associated Bank, and his title is Vice President, Community Accountability Officer from Associated Bank. Bill, let's share a little bit of information about yourself. Uh-oh, did he go to mute again? Okay, we're gonna make it happen. Let's see. I lost him. Is he there?
Yeah, it looks like we may have
Lost him. Okay.
Oh, nope, he is here, but it's looking like nothing is on.
Okay, well, let's move forward. We won't panic because we'll get him back on. So Ed, I'm going to introduce you. Ed Bryant is Vice President of Community Lending at Town Bank. Can you please share some information about yourself?
Sure. Thank you. Edward Bryant, been in the banking financial world for 20 years. And my focus here at Town was really to reach out to the community and offer banking services to educate those who may not be familiar with banking, and to also work with our community and economic partners.
Great, thank you. And then we have Doug Gordon from Waterstone Bank. He is President and CEO of Waterstone Bank. And Doug, please share some information about yourself.
Sure. Well, I'm the elder here because I started in banking in 1977. Waterstone Bank has two segments, a community banking segment where we have 13 branches in Metro Milwaukee, but we also have a nationwide mortgage banking operation that operates in 20 states throughout the country.
Awesome. And do we have Bill back, Miss Brittany?
I am back. If you can hear me, I'm sorry. I had some connectivity issue there. So,
Yay,
Bill.
Bill. Okay, so we have Bill, Community Accountability Officer for Associated Bank. Please introduce yourself, Bill.
So I work in essentially a community development role with Associated Bank. Most of my work is in Milwaukee, but a larger part of the state as well. And I help the bank listen to the community and pivot and adapt to make sure that we're serving the needs of the community. I do a lot of CRA related work with the bank. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for taking time to join us. This is an important topic. As you're saying, many folks don't understand or don't have the opportunity to do banking, and we know that that is an extremely important variable in elevating themselves financially and into greater opportunities. So I'm going to stop our screen share and I'm going to turn it over to Constance. Before we do that, just want to remind everybody, please stay muted. And that way, and if you do have a specific question, we prefer to have you go into the chat box. So that's generally the way we work it, and that includes on Facebook as well. So put any questions you have. We will do that at the end and let our team address that as the questions arise. So thank you everyone for joining us, and Constance, it's your turn.
She says it's my turn. How exciting. So thank you again for this opportunity. And I just upfront want to thank Doug, Ed, and Bill for being a part of this panel discussion. And so we really are going to be talking about social justice and equality or inequality in banking. And I think what we've noticed that with the pandemic, it's really given us an opportunity to see how people are falling in the cracks and really don't understand, as Bill say, maybe how banking works or having access to banking. So we really want to kind of hone in on that question and how we can have some solutions, because it's always good to have a conversation, but if we're not really moving toward a solution, we're just having a conversation. And so is what we hope that today we'll be able to come up with some solutions that we can work on together as financial institutions and as a community. So my very first question, and either one of these awesome gentlemen can jump in and answer that. But my very first question is, what efforts can be made by financial institutions, banks, university, or our community at large to get more minorities in banking? So let me phrase it by, sometimes we see people of color maybe as tellers, like front end people that you see at the very front. But how can we get more minorities in the retail, the mortgage, the 401k, the wealth building? How can we do that? So as a matter of fact, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start with Doug. Doug, you can answer that question.
Great, thank you. I can give you some examples of things that we're associated with, but I think we need to do it obviously on a larger scale. But in the mortgage banking operation, there's a national association just started called NAMBA, which is Association for Minorities in Mortgage Banking. And nationwide, Tony Thompson, who is heading that, is going and partnering with colleges and universities to get people interested in the mortgage banking. And then we provide obviously some support, financial support, as well as some intern programs, so that we can actually get people involved in the mortgage banking and the minorities and women, because there is a lack there. Just a couple of quick examples. I'm also on the advisory board for List of Milwaukee, and they partner with Marquette in the ACRE program, which is the commercial real estate program, to get minorities interested in commercial real estate and development, ownership, and other jobs. And that's been a very successful program. And lastly, in the commercial banking, there's lacking. There's only 2 universities that have a commercial banking curriculum, Texas A&M and Marquette. And I'm on the advisory board of the Marquette. And it's been very successful in providing internships and 100% placement of their graduates The negative is they don't have the minority enrollment in Marquette that you would want to get more Blacks and other minorities into the banking business. So that's something that we should expand or look to expand to other universities that have higher minority enrollment.
Thank you. Ed, I want to kind of phrase the question a little bit different for you. So Doug was really talking about the universities and you know what they're doing, which are really doing a great job. But have you thought of, or has your institution thought of reaching out to maybe high schoolers who haven't quite decided what they want to do, and to let them know that this is a market where they would be successful?
Yeah, so we do have high school students that do, I wouldn't call it intern, but work with us in the afternoon. And those are minority students that the bank has partnered with some of the local schools here in Milwaukee. But I would like to address that question as well, the first questions that you gave to Doug. I think banks also need to look at HBCUs. A lot of those schools have great business programs, and probably 95% of the students that attend those universities are African American or people of color. They're all over the country, so I think that's just a hidden jewel that banks need to focus on, and also intentionally recruiting minority to fill certain positions. I look at myself being in commercial banking. I'm also an ACRE graduate, but you look at the number of commercial lenders in the state of Wisconsin, that's probably less than 10 of us out the entire state, and it's probably national. So banks have to create a pipeline preparing minorities to get into the commercial lending field, because as you know, there's also challenges with small minority-owned businesses receiving business loans. Well, if there were more people like them working in banks, I think there would be an increase in small business loans to minorities.
Excellent, thank you. Bill, you get the opportunity to answer both questions.
I think it has to do with an on-ramp. And Constance, I'll say I started off in banking as a teller, and the key is that we provide opportunity for people that get their foot in the door at any place inside of the banking industry for them to build skill set and to migrate past that teller role. I don't think that the teller role is a bad place to start. And I think there's some really neat programs in Milwaukee that we've been involved with and that we support. If you look at Employ Milwaukee and Journey House, and they've been working on the BankWorks program, they're actually helping develop a skill set in the minority community. It's a pretty diverse class. I got to get in front of it one day. But I think that they're doing a good job helping us with what I'm going to say are probably entry-level jobs. But once the banks attract those entry-level colleagues, whether they're minority or not, the key is for those colleagues to look inside their institution for what infrastructure exists to help them with their career development, and to make sure that they pick a bank that's going to focus on that and invest in that for them. Our bank is a little bit bigger, a state or regional bank, and we've got colleague resource groups, which they help. We have one called CAM, which is a cultural awareness network. And if colleagues participate in that, they gain access to leadership outside of their business line, and they get an opportunity to see other positions that they might have an interest in, and they build connections where it's not your working environment where it's hierarchical, like I'm your boss and you do what I say, but rather you find somebody that potentially is a mentor that will help you with development opportunities and finding resources in order to get a little bit closer. If you start off as a teller, but you want to be in finance for the bank, or you want to be in the back shop as an underwriter, those connections, the banks, it's incumbent on us to create that opportunity within the bank to nurture those relationships so that are eventually not just the front line of the bank, but the back shops represent the really the diversity that we need to have to better support our community. Those are some of the things that we can do, that we are doing, and that we're always striving to do a little bit better.
Excellent. And I think one of the things that we probably lack is, I don't think the community knows about the great things that all three financial institutions are doing and some of the solutions that they have to that issue. So it's going to be extremely important for people to know what's out there so that they can take advantage of those opportunities. So that kind of leads me to my next questions. When I look at board development and board opportunities, I've noticed that women have been really taking the lead and going forward with that. But how do we get more minorities to have the opportunity to sit on boards? So what does that look like? Bill, we'll start with you.
And are you speaking specifically to the bank's board, Constance, or board opportunities?
Bank boards and boards in general, you know, boards that really make decisions, because again, it's so important to have someone that looks like you, can relate to you, making those decisions that affect you.
So I think it's important, first of all, if you're interested, if you're taking an active stance to say, hey, this organization can adapt and do better if they have a diverse board, first look and see. Most organizations have photographs or biographies of their board members on their website. Look and see if there's already any person of color there, so that you can potentially reach out to them as a starting point. I would say that the banks are probably all looking for more diversity on their boards, and they're trying to figure out how to do that. They're looking for people with seasoned technical expertise in specific fields where they can advise the bank, a shareholder-run organization, on how to operate better and how to be more inclusive. I think that if an individual is trying to get a bank to consider somebody for a board position, you can start with people with titles like social responsibility or community development, or my role, this community accountability role. We can help navigate, we can help champion and navigate our institutions, regardless of the size, to help find the right contacts to introduce a potential board prospect. That's one place to start. Short of that, for the smaller banks, maybe the hyper-local banks, they may not have a department like social responsibility or community development, but you may be able to look at somebody with a vice president title or higher that is able to help you kind of prospect and identify how to move through a board suggestion through their institution. I'd say in my bank, I'm a good place to start. I don't get to choose our board members. Trust me, I report to them, they're far above me, but I can help figure out who we need to talk to if there's a person put in front of us as a potential board member that would help us with any initiative with the bank, be it related to cultural inclusion or be it related to finance. I can help find that right person.
Thank you. Ed, I have a little different question for you, and it's more of a community-based question, but it's still relating to boards. How can financial institutions that have people of color, how can they participate in boards in certain communities where you have people who are high up in the financial institution? How can they become part of a community board so that they can also see that people who are high up in a financial institution, people who are of color, can actually contribute to community boards?
Sure. So actually, that's an easy fix. Most organizations love to have bankers on their board. And I think most banks encourage their, their vice presidents to participate on community boards. I know Town actually encourages to be a part of boards. Personally, I'm on like 3 or 4 boards and probably 4 loan committees. I think bankers bring expertise to the board that a lot of other board members may not have. And so we're highly recruited to become members of boards. So like I stated, I think it's an easy fix. And most of the time, bankers are a part of boards within the community because it's a good way to network as well as to bring business to the bank.
Great. Doug, did you want to chime in here about the opportunities, how to extend opportunities to other minorities on boards?
I've been a guest speaker in roundtables for Milwaukee Women Inc., and they've been very successful in being advocates to put women on boards. I think they've been around for 16 years, and during that time, the top 50 public companies have had 9% of the women. Now they have 21% on the board. And I just believe an organization that has professionals of minorities set up like that and be an advocate and actually be proactive to businesses to get on boards would be great. I think you could replicate what they've done. I also think that being a public company like we are, there's going to be more advocates for social, for more blacks and more women to be on boards from investors, so that there is more diversity. And again, everybody knows that diversity is good because our whole customer base is diverse, right? And you get the better ideas and you service better, and they're also more productive as a result.
Great. So I'm just going to turn the table a little bit. So, and I'm quite sure you all know when this happened. Back in March, we had this unusual thing happen. Everything shut down. Everybody shut down. Everything shut down. In my lifetime, I've never seen anything like this ever. And so what it did, it just put this massive spotlight on the needs of the people. And so when COVID-19 hit, how did your financial institution respond to the needs of your customers? Because again, most cases you couldn't get into the financial institution. Some financial institutions did not have drive-throughs. People were experiencing loss of jobs. So what kind of response did you have? Did you reduce your fees for opening an account or maintaining an account? Did you allow for forbearance? Could your accounts be open online or work through remotely, branch access? What did your financial institution, how did your financial institution help your customers through this very challenging time? Ed, because your face is right what I'm seeing, so I'm going to start with you.
Sure. So for many of our business, I speak from the business aspect because that's what I do. We gave the choice to a lot of our customers to do forbearance, and some did take advantage of that. We do have online banking for our consumer loan products, but because of certain documentations that are required for business accounts, we have to have physical documentation. So, but we set up appointments for those individuals to come into the bank, and we try to do as much as we could, you know, by email to open up accounts as well.
Okay, thank you. So Bill, with your customers, how did they know what your response to COVID was? Was there something on your website where your front end people knew what was going on? How did your customer find out what services and assistance you guys were offering?
So there was and still is a series of links on our website, which really quickly help a customer navigate toward, is it a business account that they have questions or have a need around? Is it a home mortgage? Is it a line of credit? Is it their deposit account? Many of the things that you mentioned, we did adapt to provide reduced ATM. Well, we eliminated the fee that the bank charged for using a non-associated bank ATM in order to improve accessibility for people. We were, I think, the first bank in Wisconsin to lock the doors to the branch, so to speak, for COVID. And that was really to help not spread disease, which also helped the customer, but it also created a potential hurdle where our bankers pretty quickly adapted our drive-throughs. Every branch of the drive-through remained open. And we also allowed and created safe space for walk-up traffic at those branches so that the customers that needed to deal with the bank in person could, and we still had the opportunity for our customers to meet face-to-face by appointment with a mask on. So I'd say we navigated a lot of the COVID-related risk for customers and for their finances, I think fairly well. We were very responsive from a mortgage perspective. I think Fannie and Freddie kind of determined how all the banks worked with forbearance and some payment relief. But with portfolio mortgages and things like that, I will say that we continue to work with the customers even when a federal program doesn't dictate how we're supposed to work with them. We've provided relief options We staffed up our call centers so that there was accessibility there. And our call centers are really not call centers. They're now dispersed and our colleagues are working from home too. But we grew that staff to support our customer demand. And we are allowing online account opening. You know, if you had a customer that was trying to deal with how do I deal with my CARES Act deposit, there's an opportunity through us and through many of the banks to accommodate the remote banking desire by our customers.
Okay, thank you. Doug, so with your customers, did they have access to online account opening, and what was your response to COVID for the customers that you serve?
Yes, we closed the lobbies and left our drive-throughs open, but we did beef, like Bill did, we did beef up our call center, use personal bankers, which could service almost anything that the customer needed. Our website has online account opening and also loan applications, and we have digital banking, which is, we were in the process of switching to a more robust one, which was, we actually introduced June 1st. That's why we reopened June 1st, because we had a lot of customers that were going to transfer onto this new digital banking, and we needed kiosks in the branches and everything to show them, you know, how to use it and to also service any problems that they had. The people at home were very busy with the Paycheck Protection Program, as we processed over 300 of those in a 30-day time frame, so businesses could continue to operate and pay their payroll. And much like others, we had forbearance programs that amounted to about 10% of our portfolio that we processed.
Okay, thank you. And so as financial institutions were really looking at the customer needs, was there, and this question is to everyone, but I'll start with Doug, was there anything that you noticed that the community had need of, and your financial institution said, you know, we're really here to help meet that need? So were there any community needs that your financial institution took on as a goal to really provide that assistance?
Well, like I mentioned before, the Paycheck Protection Program was very necessary, and taking care of that as quickly as possible to get those businesses money was important. The modifications and the forbearance, again, were very important to people. But this was also a time that we put digital banking 5 years into the future. It was accelerated substantially at this point in time. So there was a lot of service calls and such for people to be able to actually use some of the bells and whistles on digital banking that they had never done before in terms of bill pay and ACH and other things of services. So I think that was the biggest thing that we learned in that process.
Yeah, I know one of the things that we saw was that most people assume that customers really know how to take advantage of all the different products and services, all the bells and whistles, but you would be surprised at how many people had no idea how to do bill pay. They had no idea how to do take a picture of their account or a check and deposit it. And so that's, you know, as we move forward, I think that's one thing that has shown us that financial institutions may need to do a little bit more in showing people how to use all these bells and whistles, because they've never used that. And you do have some people who really don't like technology. You know, you have that whole group of individuals that they were used to going into the financial institution. That's how they did business. And then to have them to have to do something different was really an additional shock to their system. So Ed, I have a question for you. What advice would you give for struggling businesses and customers how to get loans from your financial institution? So I know you do commercial more so than anything. So what advice do you have to business owners? Because one of the things that we saw with the PPP is a lot of small businesses really were not equipped or knew even what type of documentation was needed. They thought, well, I'll just call the bank. And right. So what suggestions or advice do you have for those customers?
Well, documentation is definitely key, as you mentioned. If you're an existing business that's looking to get a loan, I mean, you definitely want to make sure your financial documents are prepared. Banks definitely like to see tax returns, personal financial statements, and you call the lender or the bank that you're looking to work with, ask them whether their requirements. And there are a lot of organizations within the city that we work with to assist those small business customers. You can go to UWM Small Business Development Center. They do a business writing plan for you, help you with your financials free of charge. You have the different ethnic chambers within the city that they're able to assist you with whatever business idea that you have. We also look at your personal credit. So you want to make sure that your personal credit is in order, your personal financials are in order before you come to the bank as well to apply for a loan. And then a lot of times what we do, because we partner with a lot of these organizations in the city, CDFIs, Community Development Financial Institutions. I think there's 4 of them in the Milwaukee area. So if a traditional bank can't do the financing for you, you can go to these organizations. One of them is Northwest Side Community Development Corporation. You have WIBIC, Legacy Redevelopment Corporation, the Hmong Chamber of Commerce, the Indian American Chamber of Commerce. All of those are certified development financial institutions that can offer financing for you. And also the African American Chamber of Commerce has a small revolving loan fund as well. So, and all those same requirements apply to these organizations as well.
Thank you. Bill, did you find that, especially with the PPP or any other type of maybe a small dollar loan, did you find that people really didn't know what you were talking about? Because I've noticed what we've been doing, we've been using acronyms for things, and people don't always know what we're talking about. Some people don't know what PPP is. Some people think that when you ask for financial documents, you're talking about their regular tax return, and not knowing that there's a difference between business and tax. So did you find that you had to do some education in regard to helping people to figure out really what was needed, not just for on the business side, but if they needed a small dollar loan?
So
Bill,
yes, and I think that what really was surprising to me was the businesses that were eligible for PPP that didn't know they were eligible for PPP. It was so new and such a unique, really unheard of program that what ended up happening with many of our bankers, I've heard some really neat stories about us reaching out to clients and saying, how are you doing with your PPP application? And they said, oh, I'm not going to apply for that. And there was, listen, no banker here got credit, got sales credit, got bonuses, got PPP was a community response program where I think the best service provided, and Wisconsin did a really good job of this across all banks. We supported our customers. We reached out and went to those customers and said that weren't applying, that we had relationships with. We reached out and we said, talk to us. We can help you with your PPP application. It's relatively simple. We were at the same time navigating a very weird circumstance and strange deadlines throughout the PPP process where I'm not a business banker, but I was doing PPP processing at 4 a.m, working up to a deadline for a PPP cutoff. And I think in general, Wisconsin should be very proud of its financial institutions for our response to PPP. We punched above our weight. Our state got a lot of relief dollars there. But I guess to really just poignantly answer your question, the bigger surprise was that the customers didn't know what to do with PPP, and the banks helped them navigate that and find it. I personally, in my role, helped 3 businesses find a PPP contact, whether it was with my bank or not. Initially, we were only working with existing customers on PPP. So I helped a nonprofit navigate and find a partner that would support them with PPP. And that championing piece of it was really important, leveraging the banker knowledge. And if I can back off, and there's one other item I kind of wanted to say about, if you have existing loans with banks now or at any point during this COVID stress, my biggest piece of advice to you is going to be just call your bank, because you're much better off talking to us. We're probably going to have a solution that surprises you in the current situation. every bank is innovating and trying to figure out how to support their customers. None of us want to see our customers, particularly business customers, fail. And you had asked about getting new loans. I'll say if you have existing loans, make sure you communicate. Don't stick your head in the sand and be afraid. It's important to pick up the phone and talk to your lender. They're gonna have something that surprises you more than likely. So I'll wrap up with that.
Thank you. So this is one of my final questions to all of the financial institutions. When you look at what happened during COVID-19 and what's happening now, when you look at your customer base and you see some of the issues that they have, is there anything that's been put in place because of that? Because you saw that your regular customer was having some issues, or you saw that your business customer was having some issues. Are there any new initiatives that have been put in place because you saw what was going on during this trying time? Doug, we'll start with you.
Sure. Unfortunately, what tends to happen in our industry is when these times go down, we tend to get stricter in our underwriting criteria and pull back, and that's just the opposite effect of what you need to get out of it. And I agree with Bill. You're a financial partner when they're struggling, and you've got to be there to help them through it, because this is, like you mentioned, this is so unusual, and we're eventually going to come out of this, and we're coming out of one of the best economies we've had in 50 years. So you're going to want to support those customers, because they're going to be, if we can get them through these times, hopefully they'll just go back to where they were as successes prior to this. This is just such an unusual type of recession that we're in. And I think we just have to be patient and find ways to get to that other end that might be a vaccine or whatever it may take to get through this.
Okay. Ed, did you want to respond to that question?
Yeah, I think what we've done is really communicated with our clients a lot to figure out what their needs are. And as stated before, many financial institutions offer forbearance and even interest only on their loans during these times. And then one of the things we did here at town, to go back to the PPP loan process, which, a lot of bankers spent a lot of time processing those loans. We reached out to the low to moderate income community for those who did not know about the program, and really handheld them through the whole process to make sure that they receive those funds. So again, communicating with your clients to see if they have any needs and be able to offer some type of solution for them.
Thank you. So Bill, we're going to wrap up with you. So hopefully we're coming out of this. And if there's a financial institution listening, a community bank listening, what would you tell them in dealing with the needs? Mm-hmm.
Listen to your customer, create remote accessibility, be available when and where your customer needs you. Reach out. This is for the banks. You got to reach out to your customers right now. Know what your bank can't do. I learned really quickly when we couldn't serve a non-associated bank customer, we had a lot of referrals to other banks, which that does not happen amongst us. We like to keep our business. And in this environment, there was a collegiality amongst the banks that impressed me. I got calls. I'm not even, again, a business banker, but that ability for us to partner from bank to bank to serve a specific client's need. Us bankers know what's in our swim lane and what's not, with credit risk and with product features. And I think that is something that really could stand to change the long-term prospects. We learned how to partner with each other where we couldn't serve a customer's need. Trust me, we're competitive. We still want our business, but we learned how to say something besides no. We learned to say, wait a minute, I know somebody at town. I know somebody at PNC. I know somebody, and we helped make some connections that have really, I think, impressed some of our clients to hear us say, we can't do it, but I know who can. And the CDFIs, to Ed's point also, those have been really strong partners that the banks have stepped behind, and we're all trying to figure out how to support them more deeply. Those community development financial institutions that lend to borrowers on terms that banks won't. the banks figure out how to invest in those, because they're creating our next generation of customers too. So
Thank you.
those are some of the learnings I've got.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. Thank everyone for your comments. I'm going to turn it over to Barb at this time.
Sounds good. Thank you, everybody. Miss Brittany, who's hiding in the background, did we get any questions? I know I see a couple up on our chat here in Zoom. Should I take those?
Yes, so I have been moving them over as I see them. So, yep,
Okay.
start in the chat. That is perfect.
Awesome. So actually, I have a question. How do you specifically reach out to folks who are underserved and unaware of the benefits of banking, credit, and wealth? And I'll start with Ed.
Okay. Again, we partner with a lot of community organizations in the city of Milwaukee. Again, the different CDFIs, the different Chamber of Commerce. A lot of our bankers are on that board. So, partnering with these different organizations, we're able to help those who may not be aware of the different financial resources that are out there for them, whether you're working with a bank or CDFI or any of the chambers. But, we usually work with those different organizations to help the community out.
Thank
Mm-hmm.
you.
And bank on, bank on, bank on. That is a strategic partner in this space for
Yeah.
all of us banks. UEDA hosts the Bank On program, and Constance leads it. And I will tell you that that is probably, again, from a teamwork perspective and learning how to serve customer need for underserved populations, you don't have to go much further than Bank On to start to learn to be able to provide those resources to any client.
Thank you. And Constance, do you want to elaborate a little bit and share more of what Bank On does and how it can serve our community?
So a lot of times people have certain reasons why they don't bank. And one of the biggest things is that, it's fees generated or overdraft, or I don't have enough money to keep in an account. So we have what's called certified lenders. And these lenders have said, here's a standard. And these standards are national standards. And so there's a couple things. The accounts that are lenders that are certified, there are 8 of them now in Greater Milwaukee. There are no overdraft. You can't overdraw your account. So you can't ever worry about having those fees. Some of the financial institutions, it doesn't cost anything to open the account or maintain the account. But then fourthly, the other thing is that it allows you to bill. So instead of you having an account that does nothing for you, here you have direct deposit. Here we're going to talk to you about credit. Here we're going to help you. So when you're ready to get that business loan is available to you. So Bank On in Greater Milwaukee, we are always looking for lenders to help modify their accounts to meet the needs of the people.
Oh, great. Thank you. We do have another question. After COVID-19, what changes are banks going to incorporate into their operations? So what modifications? It sounds like, I think you all have touched on a little bit, but if you want to just summarize again how you've modified changes and what you plan to continue doing.
I think there's going to be much more investment in technology so that people don't have to be in the branches or can be safe and learn about the digital banking and put more into digital banking.
Thank you.
I think there's a financial equity lens that's opening up too, and it's not exactly driven by COVID-19, but it's all happening at the same time. And I think you're going to see unprecedented sort of reimagining what banking can and should be, and for who, and how do we really serve all of the communities where we exist.
Anyone else?
No, I agree with both parties.
The boxes have been checked. Thank you. And then,
yeah, just one thing. So what we did for our COVID response, we really looked at our partners that had banking access either online or remotely. And then the other thing that we're looking at as well, and we're not a bank, we just help to connect. The other thing that we're looking at as well is that education piece, so that our seniors are comfortable in banking, and so that our young people have accounts that are non-custodial accounts, and that looking at how does that really work for the community that we're in. So we're working a lot with our banking partners. We're looking at having more banking partners to actually deal with those things, to make banking really accessible to people.
Great, thank you. And we have another question. What does the future look like for communities of color and getting access to finance for home purchase?
We do a lot of home lending, again, throughout the country, and you have to be proactive. Most Blacks are afraid of even approaching the banks, unfortunately. We're involved in the Near West Side with the Rev Up MKE, and I talked to the contestants of that Shark Tank, and they would have never applied if somebody didn't push them. So it's important to be proactive. We do home buyer seminars and do a lot of different things to get people to actually look to get financing from the bank.
Yeah, true. Anyone else?
Yeah.
I think,
Oh.
go ahead, Ed,
Go ahead.
because I talk too much. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. So one of my mortgage partners here, we definitely go out, work with a lot of the community organizations to educate, African Americans about the process of having home ownership and the importance of it, and just encourage and say, yeah, you can do this, you can make this happen. Sometimes it's easier to buy a house than it is to buy a car, and just getting them in the right product where they're not being taken advantage of by high interest rate and unnecessary fees. But the resources are out there. Find someone that you're comfortable with, work with those individuals, ask questions, do your research, and you can own a home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. Definitely agreed. Yeah, the interest rates are low, which really helps be able to pay that mortgage. And oftentimes I'm amazed, having been a homeowner, that I hear people, what they're paying for rent is more than my mortgage and probably all that property tax and some of the other things combined for an apartment. And I have a house. So opportunity, really, it's great. You just don't know it's there.
Right. So one of the things I would encourage people to do is to connect with HUD-approved counseling agencies.
Okay.
Because again, their job is to really walk you through that entire process. Just like with anything else, money is a very private thing, so credit is even more private. And so if you are able to work with a HUD-approved counseling agency, they're going to walk you through that process. And the other thing that I would say is, don't be afraid to ask questions. Just because someone has done it or hasn't done it, do not be afraid to ask questions. And that's what these HUD-approved counseling agencies are really meant to do.
Yeah. Great.
If you're a customer looking for a mortgage, an important question to ask your loan officer is, do you work with any HUD-approved counselors? And if they look at you sideways, like, I don't know what that is, change loan officers.
Yeah, and one good agency is Housing Resources.
Oh, yes,
They've been around
HRI.
forever.
Mm-hmm. Yep, they're definitely one of our partners as well. So that's HRI. And then there's one more question, which is actually one I had as well. Can you just remind us what those CDIs are and give us some examples of those organizations, and then we can work offline to make sure we get those listed on our website.
So
Okay.
the one that go ahead.
I didn't direct this to anybody. I heard, who started talking about them? Was it Bill?
Edward.
It was you?
Yeah. So CDFIs, Community Development Financial Institutions, they are nonprofit organizations. They are certified through the U.S. Treasury. Milwaukee, there are hundreds of them throughout the country. Milwaukee has about 4 of them. WIBIC is one, Wisconsin Women Business Initiative Corporation, Northwest Side CDC, Legacy Redevelopment Corp, Hmong Chamber of Commerce, the Indian American Chamber, I believe, and Impact 7.
Mhm.
So all of those are CDFIs throughout the city of Milwaukee. And then, of course, you have some statewide organizations as well.
Okay, great.
The Forward Community Investments is one more that is active in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, we'll work together and get some resources, I think, because a lot of people, as we said, acronyms and just not necessarily knowing where to go and the various opportunities that are available to each of us. So I want to thank everyone. I said this before we got started to the team here. It's just been an honor and privilege to do these weekly webinars. It's been eye-opening for me. It's been interesting, and I'm so glad that we have the opportunity to be able to share these this information with our greater community here, especially in the Near West Side. But beyond that, it's important that we make sure people have access to resources. So I appreciate everyone here taking that time and being with us for this hour. I'm going to switch gears again just quickly for one more screen share. And we're going to go flying through just to make sure I get everything caught up. So we already did that slide. We did our questions, yay. And then just to let everyone know about 2 more events coming up today, Made in the Near West Side. It's our Facebook event featuring a neighbor business owner. And today we have a good man's desserts. So Alan Goodman is going to show us how to bake an oatmeal cookie. And let me tell you, I bet you it has a lot of butter. And then we have our farmer's market, which I did not put up the wrong, I put up the wrong picture because we've been evolving with this. It started only a few weeks ago. It's not a farmer's market, it's a vegetable stand. We've now retitled it the Belite Street Oasis. And you will find a produce vendor and or maker. We have Carolyn Parker. And so from every, I wrote it down, Wednesday through Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. And then Saturday and Sunday, 1 to 4 p.m. So it's at 38th and Belite Street or 3743. You will find fresh produce, flowers, pre-made products, and we're excited that it's going. It seems to, it's really has been a success, and it's just a cute little produce stand. So what more can you ask for? And then finally, if you feel so motivated to make a donation to Near West Side Partners, there's our website. Please go there. There's a couple ways that you can help donate to our organization, because much like our other nonprofits here, we can use all the sources where available. And I think that wraps us up. And let me make sure. Yep, we're back at the beginning. So everybody, thanks so much for being part of this event. I'm going to stop the share so it doesn't go crazy. And we'll wrap up, and we'll see y'all next week with our Reckless Driving Seminar. Thanks again. Have a great day.